Breaking news, America's new era. Donald Trump inaugurated as the 47th president.
Do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
the office of President of the United States.
A time-honoured tradition in the nation's capital.
Taking back the White House.
The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world.
The new president vowing the most extraordinary first 100 days in office, what it means for Australia and the world.
Hail to the chief. Elon Musk leads a roll call of tech titans, but there's one person who's a shock no-show.
And DC. President Trump is attending a signing ceremony to begin his return to work. He's rushing in a tidal wave of new laws on everything from immigration to climate to TikTok. He's even renaming the Gulf of Mexico. He is also taking back the Panama Canal.
So over the coming hours, President Trump and First Lady Melania will attend a series of official functions and then 3 gala balls in their honour, and we'll bring you every major moment as it happens this morning.
But first to the historic moment that's ushered in a new chapter. Donald Trump sworn in as the 47th President of the United States of America. Here is the moment he took that presidential oath this morning.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
And will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend. The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
And as he took to the stage to deliver his inaugural address, President Trump promised the people of America a restoration of confidence. Let's go live now to the US and our correspondent Tim Lester. Tim, there is so much to unpack here, but first off, the history-making moment there in Washington this morning.
Shervo, Nat, good morning to you. Yes, a remarkable moment, a moment that many of us won't have seen in our lives, in that we haven't seen it indoors in the rotunda. The freezing conditions in Washington forcing that on Donald Trump, and 600-odd guests tightly packed in to this ornamental chamber in the centre of the US Capitol building for the changeover of power. But this no ordinary changeover of power, a quite extraordinary change that promises dramatic effects here in the United States, and because of the US influence around the world, including in our country, from what Donald Trump plans, the raft of executive orders he foreshadowed this last night, 100 or so that he intends to begin signing any moment, and essentially make law by his hand, going through the speech and dotting it with comments as to just how profound he sees today. Take a listen.
Justices of the United States Supreme Court, President Clinton, President Bush, President Obama, President Biden, Vice President Harris, and my fellow citizens. The golden age of America begins right now. From this day forward, our country will flourish and be respected again all over the world. We will be the envy of every nation, and we will not allow ourselves to be taken advantage of any longer. During every single day of the Trump administration, I will very simply put America first. Our sovereignty will be reclaimed. Our safety will be restored. I return to the presidency confident and optimistic that we are at the start of a thrilling new era of national success. A tide of change is sweeping the country. Sunlight is pouring over the entire world, and America has the chance to seize this opportunity like never before. But first, we must be honest about the challenges we face. While they are plentiful, they will be annihilated by this great momentum that the world is now witnessing. And indeed...
So what is in Donald Trump's pack of executive orders that he's signing here today? Well, certainly he puts immigration and the national emergency he says he's declaring on the Mexican border as the prime one. But there are many others of interest. He used his now well-coined phrase of drill, baby, drill, and made comments that will frankly be despairing for those really concerned about America's role in climate action. Clearly, he still holds that very low on his list of priorities, and talking about winding back the electric vehicle mandate in this country immediately. Also, though, some of the other changes you mentioned, like renaming the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America, that's something that's been passionate to him. Mount Denali is the highest mountain in the United States, in Alaska. He's going to rename that or reverse name that back to Mount McKinley, and a raft of other proposals that he's putting into action today to be seen as being particularly active on day one, guys.
Yes, we've just watching the live pictures of the official party leaving the building and moving on to the next stage of this momentous day. Tim, Trump and Melania infamously refused to host a number of transfer of power rituals when Biden, of course, was incoming in 2021. What's Biden doing this year?
Well, extraordinary dynamic between Joe Biden and Donald Trump today, Nat. Consider this, as Donald Trump attacks what he sees as the legal attack on him that Joe Biden engineered. Joe Biden met Donald Trump this morning and took him into the White House for a drink and an introduction, said to him, "Welcome home," as they came in, then rode with Donald Trump, the president and the about-to-be president, to the Capitol building and sat through Donald Trump's speech, listening to, again, more attacks on the weaponisation of government through the Justice Department as Donald Trump sees it. So a tough day for Joe Biden. You wouldn't envy him it. But the news out of Joe Biden today is that he's made his own historic final move as President of the United States in his last hours, announcing preemptive pardons for family members and as well for members of the January 6th committee in Congress, including Republicans like Liz Cheney and others like Mark Milley, the retired general, and Anthony Fauci, who of course was the doctor prominent at the time of the COVID pandemic, because he fears that the Trump administration will prosecute them. So he's preemptively pardoned them as a kind of protective shield against any legal action from the Trump administration. It's historic, unprecedented in many respects, and tells you about the antagonism between the two men. But Joe Biden is biting his lip and sticking to tradition today to get through the day.
Yeah, so we're just looking at live pictures there from the Capitol, and Joe Biden is about to leave that ceremony at the moment. Tim, I've got to ask you, because you've covered these inaugurations before. Obviously, back in 2017, when Donald Trump first took power, it was a bit of a surprise. And then in 2020, when he lost power, and Nat mentioned that he and Melania refused to take part in a number of those ceremonies. Now, this time, coming into office, how different is it? The resignation of the Democrats, knowing that he is to be the leader of the free world once again. How is it feeling there?
It's an utterly different Washington this time around, Shervo. Certainly end of 2016, 2017, Washington was more defiant. Washington was characterised by protest, by disruption within Republicans who weren't accepting of Trump's rise to the presidency, let alone Democrats. Here, Washington now is much more resigned to the presidency of Donald Trump. I think in an underlying admiration that he really has pulled off a political comeback that defies explanation, that the Democrats certainly didn't account for in their planning of the way they approached the last few years. It's historic, it's remarkable. He's much more king-like. He's and the Democrats, you sense, are receding to take stock of their loss and what went wrong and where to from here. And Republicans, of course, we've seen over the last, right over the last 2 years, but certainly in recent times, fall solidly in behind Donald Trump. Trump is at the apex of his power here in Washington now. Few questioning him, and we should take seriously that shopping list of executive orders and aims going forward, because even although the congressional margins are very narrow, certainly in the House of Representatives, he has the backing of his party, and he's likely to be able to do a lot of what he wants to do.
Yes, look, no one would deny what an amazing comeback this has been for Donald Trump, which may not be repeated in history. We're just going to bring in our experts on the desk, Keith Suter and Simon Jackman. Simon, let's talk about the leaders, Donald Trump and the former leader now, Biden, standing there on the tarmac after that vicious debate, after what they have been through. What on earth do they talk about in a situation like that?
I have no idea, but one thing you admire about political leaders, they always seem to be able to make small talk in moments like that. Probably wishing him well and thanking him for the hospitality that Biden extended the Trumps this morning. It was very classy of Joe Biden, and in no small measure a fitting finale to a long 50-year-plus career in public service, ending with, on the one hand, some grace and hospitality towards the Trumps coming back to the White House, but at the same time signing off on pardons for members of his family and former members of his administration. Yeah,
really interesting too, Keith, the fact that Biden, unfortunately, his tenure as president is sandwiched between Donald Trump now and essentially these 100 executive orders that he's going to sign off on today will unravel a number of those things that Biden did.
Absolutely. And in fact, we're going to see the unravelling of 4 years of Biden within just a few days, I think, in terms of a lot of the implementation, in terms of getting rid of the Green New Deal, although that's going to require some congressional action, but clearly there's congressional support for that. No more electric vehicles, etc. There's going to be a whole series of things that are going to be reversed. So poor old Biden, by the time that he lands for his holiday resort in, I think, California, to have a bit of rest and recreation, you'll see a lot of that legacy of his already been demolished.
So Marine One, I think it is, about to take off. Where does Biden go? Does he sort of land on the lawn at Delaware, Simon?
If Keith's correct, and I've no reason to believe Keith is not correct, if he's going to California, he will fly out to Andrews Air Force Base, not too far from downtown Washington, and he'll get one final ride in that big blue 747. It will not be designated Air Force One. It will have a regular US Air Force call sign, but you get one last ride typically on Air Force One if he's going all the way to California for some holiday time.
And when you're watching that inauguration, that swearing in of Donald Trump in the rotunda, and you're seeing those former presidents behind Donald Trump and the reactions on their faces, I mean, what would be going through their heads? Barack Obama, for example.
Well, Barack Obama, you know, all of them, you know, can say, well, at least I've been there. You know, so I'm already down in the history book, so they can afford to be relaxed and comfortable. And the important thing, really, about this transfer of power, which makes a democracy unique compared with, say, China or Russia, is this smooth transfer of power. We went off the rails 4 years ago, but basically we've got a mechanism for changing. Same in Australia. The government loses, another one comes into power. It's done very smoothly. The problem for China is what happens when President Xi dies, what happens when President Putin dies in Russia. We have, as you've just seen, this very smooth transfer of power done in a very grand way.
And there goes Biden and Jill. So heading to California, we understand.
Eventually, my understanding is they're going to have a bit of a holiday on the West Coast.
They will. Nice relaxation.
He deserved it 4 years.
Definitely.
And
And of course, the problem for Jill Biden is that she's now the centre of a target for the Democrats as they claw at each other, trying to work out where they went wrong. Jill Biden is now being blamed for keeping her husband in power. Remember, Biden himself said, I'll serve one term. That's what we all expected. But suddenly, probably with pressure from Jill, he decided, look, I'll try for another 4 years. He left his decision to withdraw too late and really damaged the Democrat chances of getting a person back in the White House. So there's a lot of anger against Jill Biden.
What, within Democrats? Have they
Within the
worked that out?
Democrats, yeah. Yeah, so the Democrats are now going to spend 4 years clawing at each other, blaming each other for being too moderate or too left-wing, etc. It's going to be very difficult because Trump has done so well in the presidential election, and including winning over traditional Democrat voters. So the Democrats have to work out how do you get back to that traditional blue-collar industrial base.
Those 7 swing states. Simon, Keith, thank you so much for joining us in our coverage throughout the whole morning, and no doubt you'll be back to comment as we talk about that was the transition, then Donald Trump. A little bit of blue on his tie as well, I noticed, for Donald Trump, so we'll talk about that in a moment. Thanks so much for being with us.